السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.
أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله.
Ashhadu anna Muhammad Rasulullah.
أشهد أن محمد رسول الله.
أشهد أن محمد Rasulullah.
أشهد أن محمد رسول الله.
Hayya ala salah.
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله.
Hayya ala salah.
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله.
Hayya ala falah.
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله.
Hayya ala falah.
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
الله أكبر الله أكبر.
La ilaha illallah.
لا إله إلا الله.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد إن أصدق حديث كتاب الله عز وجل وأحسن حدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر أمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة في الإسلام بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. All praise is due to Allah. We praise Him and we extol Him and we seek refuge in Allah from evil within ourselves and the evil results of our wrong actions. Whomsoever Allah guides can be never left astray in misguidance, and whomsoever Allah allows to be left astray, and there is no guide for that individual. Really, the most truthful of speech is the book of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, and the finest guidance is that of Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And the most evil of affairs are newly invented ones, bid'ah. And every bid'ah is going astray, and every going astray leads to the hellfire. That's what follows. Salam and Iman. Today I would like to share with you all a very vital hadith, a very important and very vital hadith that has an effect on our lives, bi'idhnillah, if we pay attention to the details of this hadith. So, inshallah, I would like us all to pay close attention to this hadith, not just with our ears, but with our hearts, inshallah. Because this hadith is from one of the Juwam al-Kalim, one of the miracles of the Prophet ﷺ that has been gifted by Allah of having a short, concise speech which is packed with a lot of benefit. And from this hadith, we will be able to learn and grasp how we should care for and look after our families and the hierarchy of those people who deserve the most care in our families. We will learn from this hadith the correct companionship or the adab of companionship. We will also learn from this hadith labor and business dealings and transactions. And also, most importantly, this hadith will teach us tawakkul, reliance, placing our reliance upon Allah Ta'ala. And another misunderstood understanding of this tawakkul is for us to know about tawassul, seeking a nearness to Allah Azza wa Jal through our amala salihah, through our good deeds. So inshallah, ta'ala, I hope from this hadith that we will learn to do deeds, or we'll learn that when we do our deeds, that we do them with love and sincerity and appreciation by Allah. Appreciation that Allah Azza wa Jal had given us this opportune position to do things fi sabilillah, bi'idhnillah. And what I mean by this is that to be a person with ikhlas or sincerity, that we are in the habit of not only doing deeds which we deem to be high ranking in the eyes of Allah, but we leave off kadhib, we leave off lying, we leave off trying to be a person who is always trying to be an opportunist person by swindling others out of their wealth or out of their position. Because Allah Azza wa Jal, He puts people in positions whoever He likes. And Allah Azza wa Jal, He gives wealth to whomsoever He likes. So we, as being people who are striving towards being sincere towards Allah Azza wa Jal, then we should not be opportunistic upon each other. And we should not be a person who has khayana, deceitfulness in our character makeup. Why? Because we feel that we are better suited for that position than that person themselves. So, finally, from this hadith, I hope, bi'idhnillah, that we'll understand that if we're not willing to be of assistance, then we need to stop blocking progress by our negativity or pessimism or just being a person who likes to criticize. And with this in mind, we have to remember the ayat of Allah. Allah says, إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقُونَ. That Allah, He only accepts from those people who are people of taqwa, people who are sincerely striving with the deeds that they're doing with taqwa. So this hadith has been collected in Sahihain of Imam Bukhari and Muslim on the authority of Abdullah ibn Umar, radhiyallahu anhuma. May Allah Azza wa Jal be pleased with him and his father. He said that I heard from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that from the people who came before us, there were 3 men who set out on a journey. And my dear brothers Iman, when I narrate this story to you, we should not just take it as a story or a bedtime story, and maybe we've heard this hadith narrated to us before, but I want us to understand that the Prophet ﷺ is giving us this story, and he's telling us this thing, that from the people of the past, there were 3 men. He's not just giving us an analogy or telling us a fable, or he's giving us this parable, which is something which happened. And it can happen to any one of us. And what should we do? He said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that from the people who came before us, there were 3 men who set out on a journey. For whatever reason it may be, they set out on a journey, and as they were on the journey, heavy rainfall started to come down. So they took shelter inside a cave. And when they went into the cave, a huge rock came and blocked the mouth of the cave. So one of them said, or they said to each other, by making shura, mutual consultation, they said that nothing will save us from this catastrophe except if we were to call upon Allah by our good deeds. Afwan, through our good deeds, which they all agreed upon. So, the first one said, without hesitation, the first one said that I had parents, elderly parents, whom I used to serve with milk. I used to bring them the milk every night and they would drink. And I would always feed them before I feed the rest of my family. So then he said that one day he was detained by his goats or his sheep and he wasn't able to reach to his parents in time. So by the time he reached his parents, they had already fallen asleep. And his wife and his children were crying at his feet for the milk. But he hated to serve his family before his parents. So you see how this man, he made a distinction between his parents and his family. And he started with the top. And he hated to serve them. He could have easily said, okay, this portion is for you and this portion is for them. But no, he made this a sunnah on himself, this good deed, this amal salih, this good deed for himself, that he would make sure that his parents drank to their fill before serving his children. So they fell asleep and he waited by their bedside, not waking them up, not just leaving the milk there, but till they woke up in the morning and he fed them the milk first before his family. And then he said, "Oh Allah, if I did this deed for your sake, then relieve us from this catastrophe that we're in." So the rock moved just a little bit. Just a little bit, but not enough for them to escape from the calamity. And the second man, he said that I had a cousin of mine whom I loved dearly, more than any man could love a woman. And he said that I wanted her, but she always refused me. This shows that this man, he was a normal man who had passion and desires for the opposite sex. But this woman refused his advances until one day they came upon that girl and their family a famine. And she approached him and said that I'm in very desperate need. So he said, I will lend you this money, I'll give you this money on the account that you would not refuse my advances. And she agreed. So I gave her the 120 dinars. The Prophet ﷺ, he made specific in the number. He gave her 120 dinars on the condition that she would not refuse my advances. Subhanallah. So then, when he came to fulfill his desires with her, she said, Ya Abdullah, ittaqillah. O slave of Allah, have the consciousness of Allah. Fear Allah. Don't violate this. Don't break this seal except with lawful nikah. So he got frightened and he ran away and he left her with the 120 dinars. And then he made a dua and he said, Oh Allah, if I had done this for your sake, then relieve us from the situation that we are in. So the rock moved a little bit more, but not enough for them to escape from that cave. The third man, he said that I had laborers whom I employed, and they worked for me, and I would pay them their wages. But one of them, he, for whatever reason, refused to take his wages at that time, and he left. And then I used that money that I was supposed to pay to that laborer, and I reinvested it into my business. And my business flourished as a result. And after some time, I had gained a lot of herds of camels, of sheep, of cows, and of more servants. And that man returned after some time, and he said, O servant of Allah, give me my haqq. Give me what is my due. Allahu Akbar. This brings me to another point, which is a lot of men are employed. How many of us have used to live in the Middle East or in Bahrain or in Qatar, or they're employed by their employers and they refuse to pay the wages? For months, they don't want to pay the employees their salary. They're holding them as hostage. And the families are depending on that money that they send back home. Anyways, as it continues, the hadith goes on that the man returned after some time and he said, Ya Abdullah, give me my haqq. Give me my wages that are mine. That'll do to me. He said, okay, whatever you see here, it belongs to you. Of sheep, of camels, of goats, of cows, of slaves. Everything that you can see in front of you, it belongs to you. He says, is that you're making a fun of me? You're joking with me? You dhalamani. You are oppressing me by not giving me my money, and now you're making fun of me? He said, no. All what you can see here in front of you, it belongs to you. Take it, Ya Abdullah. So the man took everything. He took the sheep, he took the servants, he took the horse, he took everything, the cows, everything that he can see. Ma taraka shay'an. As the Prophet said, he took everything and he did not leave anything. And he walked away. The man said that if I had done this for your sake, O Allah, then relieve us of this situation that we are in. And then the rock completely moved away and they were able to walk out free from that disaster that they were in. So, my dear Salam Iman, this hadith is a lesson. It is packed, jam-packed with many lessons that are too many to enumerate. There's too many lessons in this hadith that we can be able to extrapolate from it. But one thing that I want us to understand from this hadith, inshallah, is that we have to try and get into the habit of doing deeds, doing things, bidnillah, doing things with love, with ikhlas, with sincerity, and being happy that Allah Azza wa Jal has opportuned this for me to do. Allah Azza wa Jal is calling on us to do deeds, and Allah Azza wa Jal can send by whatever means a person could ask us for help, and we're in the opportunity, we're in the position to help, but we refuse. We have to be grateful of that. We have to understand as a ummah, as a community, that we're only as strong as our weakest link. That as a community, as a jama'ah, we have to be sincere in doing our good deeds. That sometimes we'll be criticized or be ridiculed, but we know that we're trying our best to please Allah Ta'ala. And when we do things, we have to understand that when we try and do things for the sake of Allah, that Allah Azza wa Jal, He will always come to our aid. That we do not understand. And when we're in the habit of doing things with love and sincerity, ikhlas, wa niyyah, for the sake of Allah, trying our best to implement the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, because he is the best example. Any of us who believe that we can get a nearness to Allah through our amal salih, except with the sunnah, then they are gravely mistaken. Whoever believes that they can get a close and nearness to Allah Ta'ala, except with ikhlas and niyyah, which is being sincere, liwajjillah Ta'ala, in accordance to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, then we are sadly mistaken. Allah He has told us in Surah Talaq, Man yattaqillah yaj'alhu makhrajan wa razaqahu min haythu lam yahtasib. Whoever puts their reliance on Allah, then Allah will be sufficient for that person. Whoever trusts in Allah, then Allah Azza wa Jal will be enough for us. Whoever trusts in Allah, for huwa hasbu. So my dear Salam Iman, this hadith is a very important lesson for us, that we have to work together as an ummah, as a community, as a family structure. We have to train ourselves to understand the hierarchy of our family. We have to train ourselves to not be greedy with tama', wanting everything for ourselves. If we employ laborers to work, pay them their wage. The Prophet said that before the sweat dries, they should get their wage, they should get their haqq. And we shouldn't believe that we are tight and we're going to be in a difficult situation because we do this. Allah Azza wa Jal, He will bless us. Even though we are tight, we have to understand that they may also have dependents that depend on them. So may Allah Azza wa Jal give us tawfiq to help us. And Allah Azza wa Jal bless us and guide us to doing deeds. May Allah Azza wa Jal help us and bless us and guide us to do deeds collectively and do deeds with love, with muhabbat, and with ikhlas, with niyyah. Bidnillah ta'ala. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله وأتوب إليه. Bismillah, wa salatu salam ala Rasulullah, wa ala alihi wa sallam ma'tabi huda wa ba'd. With that said, my dear Salam Iman, this brings me to another very important point, that as believers, we should never ever belittle the power of dua. We should never ever belittle the power of dua with good intentions. Because from this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he did not allude that these people were any type of high caliber, pious people. He said that these were everyday people. But they made it a sunnah upon themselves to do these good deeds. And the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they understood that. So long as they always tried to stick within the framework and the parameters of the sunnah, that they'll be successful. When we do this as a community, always try our best to stick within the parameters of the sunnah, we can always hope. And we should expect that Allah will help us, even if it's after some time. Even if it's after some time. If we are sincerely always striving to follow the Quran and authentic sunnah, then we have to know and we have to understand and believe wholeheartedly within ourselves that we are one of those people who are close to Allah Ta'ala. And this is also from the karamat of the awliya Allah. We have to have this belief in our heart. But this is also one of the sound principles of the aqidah of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. The people who love the hadith and love to stick to the sunnah and the collective body of the Muslims. That so long as we're trying to and striving to hold on to the Quran and the authentic sunnah with the correct understanding, then Allah He will always be there to help us. Allah He says in Surah Yunus regarding His friends, Allah inna awliya Allah la khawfun alayhim wa la hum tahzanun alladhina amanu wa kanu yattaqun. Sadaqallah. Isn't it those people who are the friends of Allah that they will have no fear when everybody else is in fear and in confusion and having panic attacks? Those people who are calm and cool, and they say, let's make dua. Let us take a step back and let us make some dua. Let us take some time now and make some dua. Let us think about what we have done, that we done fi sabilillah. And let's call on Allah by these things. How many of us have done this? It's very rare that we find anyone doing these things. That we have to place our hope and our trust and our reliance on Allah Ta'ala. Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, he has stated in his book, Al-Aqidah al-Wasatiyah, that the karamat, those extraordinary occurrences that has occurred at the hands of those awliya, those people who are close friends with Allah, are one of the principles of the Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah. And those occurrences that has occurred in the past, that are occurring, and that will continue to occur, those amazing events will continue to occur until the last day. So, in this regard, Mr. Salam and Iman, I'd like to leave us off with another extraordinary event which took place in the life of the Sahaba, radhiyallahu anhum ajma'in. And at the head of them was one person who was Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, radhiyallahu anhu, who was one of the Ashar Mubashirin bil Jannah, was one of those 10 people who was given the glad tidings of paradise by the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his lifetime. And he was also the first person to throw a spear in the cause of Allah. And he was also the first person to be struck by a spear in the path of Allah Ta'ala. When there was a battle, and we all might have heard of this story, when there was a battle between the Muslims and the Persians. The Muslims, they chased the Persians until they reached to the Tigris River. And they had a head start. And they were able to cross the river before the Muslims. And they burnt the bridges and they destroyed all of the boats so that the Muslims would not be able to cross. And that was when the river was in its flood season. So the river and the water was very high. So Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, he didn't know what to do. He was perplexed as the leader of the Muslim army. So as a result, he said, shall we turn back? No. He didn't become a person who was overtaken by stress or anxiety. He called. He made shura. He called for who? Salman al-Farsi. he called Salman al-Farsi and he said, what should we do? Why did he choose Salman al-Farsi? Because he was a man from Faris. He was from Persia. He was from those people. And he was an expert of the strategies of war. So he called Salman al-Farsi and he said, there isn't anything that we can do except we should have istiqamah. We should be upright on the deen of Islam. We should be upright on the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Salman al-Farsi, he encircled the army, the regiments, the groups of the army, and he observed them during the day, and he observed them at night, and he seen them praying and bowing and making sujood to Allah at night and preparing their battle armor and their steeds of war during the day. And after 3 days and nights, he went back to Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas and he said that the army is in goodness. They're in khair, they're in goodness. So Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, he summoned the army in front of him and he said that I am going to stand on the river and I'm going to make 3 takbirs. And he said, after I stand on the river and make 3 takbirs, I want you all to follow me in the name of Allah. Enter and walk onto the water and say Bismillah. And he said that Allah will make this easy for us. So when they stood on the water with Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, they all walked on in the name of Allah by saying Bismillah. And they all walked across the Tigris River in its flood season as if they were walking on land with the men and with their steeds of war, laden with their property, with their swords and their shields and the horses, walking across the water as if they were walking on land. And they were able to penetrate the Tigris River. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was able to penetrate this river, walking straight through it, and every man walking behind him, and not one man was left behind. And when they crossed the river and they faced the Persian army, they were so terrified of the Muslims that they screamed and they said that these are not human beings. These are jinn. These are shayateen. Because there's no way that a human being can cross the river without a conveyance. So then they were able to defeat the Persian army and enter into the center of the city. And Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas, he prayed the duha prayer, and then, which was 8 rakats. And then after that, he established the Jum'ah prayer, which is the first Jum'ah prayer in Iraq. And then they took the Kisra, the crown jewels of that land, and they took it back to Amir al-Mu'mineen, Umar ibn Khattab, anhu. And that crown was so huge that they had to strap it to 2 camels to bring it back to Amir al-Mu'mineen, Umar ibn Khattab, all the way to Medina. And this incident also came back to Umar ibn Khattab. And then he questioned them. And he said that, I do not doubt you. I do not have any doubt that Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was able to do this. But what about the men? What about those men? How were they able to do this? What was their ability? What was their trait? And they said, yeah, Amir al-Mu'mineen, I swear by Allah, wallahi, not a single member of this army had any love of the dunya in their hearts. That's why they were able to defy gravity and walk on water as if they're walking on land. Allahu Akbar. And inshallah, if any of you are interested to learn more about the feats of the awliya Allah, then you can look at the explanation of Aqidat al-Wasatiyya by Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, translated in English. They have it in English and they have it in Arabic by the noble Sheikh Muhammad Saleh Ibn Uthaymeen. Why I mention this is because extraordinary events and feats that are taking place by the hands of the awliya, those people who are close to Allah, those people who are not trying to be a kha'in, a deceitful person, a liar, a cheat, any of those characteristics, of any of those things, a person who tries to be sincere in their dealings, in their transactions, Allah will definitely come to their aid in ways that we cannot imagine. So I'm reminding myself and you all of this, that we can try our best to put our trust in Allah and leave off khiyana, leave off deceitfulness in our character, in our nature, in our speech, in every aspect of ourselves, we should not be a deceitful person. We should be true. As in those men in the hadith, those 3 men, try to establish a good sunnah for yourself. We don't want to innovate in the deen, but let's try and establish some good deeds that we can do. Everyday deeds, by providing milk to our family, by doing a good deed and establishing that for ourselves, staying away from fahsha, staying away from lewdness, be upright and good and true and honest in our business dealings. And then, inshallah, as a community, collectively, Allah will answer our du'as. Allah will answer our du'as in ways that we cannot imagine. May Allah help all of us and bless all of us to understand these words and implement these words and be of those who Allah loves and is pleased with. Ameen. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. Kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وأقم الصلاة